while the traders who do meet them are really there just for the animal skins, which then will be turned into belts, slippers and capes, and the foragers really only care about what they receive in exchange. They don't know much about the river basin to the west, they have no clue about the magical infertility zone, and they speak a different language from the ones spoken by the river basin inhabitants. Immediately after the old world died and the new planet was formed, the people who ended up on the surface of the planet belonged to two different ethnic groups that spoke two different languages. The people who moved out to live in the hills along the river that exited the basin belonged to the larger ethnic group. But the language with fewer speakers was the native language of the woman who became the original queen. Her descendants ruled from the area where that language was spoken, and all the original aristocracy belonged to the queen's ethnic group. Over the centuries, the language that had all the political power behind it expanded out, and that language ended up evolving into what is now Itlu. It's the native language of the aristocracy everywhere in the basin, and it's also spoken by most peasants. The language that once had more speakers diverged into two languages, one spoken by the peasants in the west of the basin, and the other one spoken by the hunter-gatherers. At this point, most traders are native speakers of Itlu, but if a speaker of the other basin language met the hunter-gatherers, they might understand some words here and there, but the two languages have diverged enough to not be mutually intelligible anymore. And so the foragers and the traders communicate in a trading pidgin, which is much too limited to allow for a conversation about cultural differences. And I'm going to leave the hunter-gatherer lands with that for now. And if you are creating your own imaginary foragers, get this book. It unintentionally makes for a really great world-building manual.
The Elytra, the wingsuit. If you're a Minecraft player, you probably love this item. But if you're a server owner or admin, you probably hate this item. And if you're the owner of the oldest Anarchy server in Minecraft, you really hate this item. Why? Well, let's just say there's a reason they've been banned on 2b2t for such a long time. Today I'll be telling you about the controversial history of elytras on 2b2t, how they were initially used, how they helped accomplish things that simply weren't possible in vanilla Minecraft, and how they ended up almost destroying the server. What was intended as a fun method of transport in Minecraft ended up being used to bring the server to its knees. There's a lot to get into today, so let's get started. Elytras were first introduced to 2b2t in the spring of 2016. Getting them on the server was no easy task. In the months leading up to the update, all end portals had been destroyed, meaning that getting into the end was impossible. Only players that had accounts already in the end dimension were able to get the new item. One of the first players to obtain an elytra was Kane's Law. He ended up grabbing a few of them and then gave them to his friends, myself included. What's funny is that at first, many players at the time didn't really care about elytra because the boat fly exploit introduced with the new boats from the update was a far better mode of transportation at the time. Boat fly was used extensively as the #1 form of transport until the server admin, Housemaster, patched the exploit after a couple of weeks. Once patched, players began to experiment more with the elytra. Many of us brought our own elytras to spawn and started performing stunts with them and overall, goofing off with them. Speaking from personal experience, being able to glide over the wasteland of spawn was something I never imagined I'd be able to do, and I had a lot of fun doing it. Vanilla elytras on 2b2t had some issues though. It was possible to get stuck in the flight animation on the ground, and if you attempted to take off your elytra, it would kill you instantly. I found this out the hard way.
Alright, I'm not really sure what's happening right now. I mean, this is supposed to be a stunt video. Maybe if I try taking off the wings, that'll fix everything. My first death in a few months, and it's not from a rusher, it's not from a high-level player, it's from me being an idiot. I guess the moral of the story is, the only person that can kill Fit is Fit.
Soon it was the summer of 2016, and the rusher war had begun on the server. Elytras provided a huge advantage to the old players during the first month of the war, before they were duped and distributed to rushers. While all the fighting was happening, people on the sidelines were experimenting with elytras and getting some unusual results. During the summer, 2B2T player Clyde released footage of him appearing to have unlimited flight with his elytra, quick loading chunks behind him as he flew. He kept flying and loading chunks until the server wasn't able to keep up. The TPS, or ticks per second, dropped to 0, and the server crashed. This proved that not only were elytras hackable, but they could crash the server with little effort. However, the hack module that was used in the video was not yet public, so it wasn't in any popular hack clients at the time. Yet. It would take another half year for clients to obtain or recreate the elytra flight hack. Near the start of 2017, the hack Elytra Flight had become public in several different hack clients. It was now possible to have sustained flight instead of just gliding. Much like Clyde had done in 2016, players were able to fly so fast that it would drop the TPS to very low numbers. Pretty much anybody with an elytra could lag the server at their choosing. This wasn't the only issue though. If someone was flying over brand new terrain and turbo loading the chunks, it fully loaded them, which meant that 2B2T's file size was increasing by gigabytes per day. It got so bad that Housemaster actually took notice of this. The ability for elytras to lag chunks in addition to drastically increasing file size, House had no choice. He banned elytras until he could come up with a solution. A temporary solution was found. Elytras on the server were changed so that if you were moving above a certain speed, it simply wouldn't load the chunks you were in until you slowed down. This solution worked, and it became harder to lag the server using elytras. Not leaving a trail of chunks behind also meant that it was possible to fly out to distant locations and not be able to be traced with hacks such as new chunks. For a large part of 2017, elytras were the #1 method of transport. Because travel across the server was so easy, a lot of bases were griefed in 2017 simply because a coordinate leak meant that griefers could show up in a matter of minutes. When we blew up Summermelon, we were able to travel there quickly due to elytras, and were able to cover more ground when laying TNT. What used to take almost an entire day now only required an hour or so. While griefing became much easier, elytra flight actually caused the server to become a safer place and overall less dangerous. You could escape so quickly that the odds of someone keeping up with you was very low. During the summer of 2017, I was able to live stream at 00 and was never in any real danger, simply because I could fly away if there was trouble. If I tried to live stream at 00 these days, it would be suicide. During the height of 2017, a milestone was reached that realistically wasn't possible in vanilla Minecraft. The world border corner of the end dimension was reached. -30 million X, -30 million Z. That's right, similar to the overworld, the end has a world border too. No nether fast travel or any teleportation, just a week straight of elytra flight. Months after the overworld world border was reached legitimately by digging a nether highway, the end's world border corner was reached using the X